Now, just as the sky replacement command allows you to adjust the brightness and color balance of the sky, it also, to a lesser extent, allows you to adjust the brightness and color balance of the foreground image to better match the sky. And so notice over here in the layers panel that we've got these additional support layers, foreground lighting and foreground color. Those both affect the foreground image. So notice if I turn them off, the foreground becomes much brighter. All right, I'm going to go ahead and reduce the width of the layers panel once again and switch to the original photograph. And then I'll go out to the edit menu and choose sky replacement. And just for the sake of variety, let's switch to a different sky. I'll go ahead and click on this thumbnail and then drop down to this guy right here, which is another one from Julianne. Good job. Looks great. And so I'll go ahead and click off that panel to hide it. Then I'll twirl close sky adjustments and I'll twirl open foreground adjustments. So notice that we have two lighting modes: multiply, which is going to darken the subject of the photograph, and screen, which is going to make it brighter. Obviously, screen is not what we want, so I'll switch back to multiply. Now, the degree to which you're going to multiply things depends on this lighting adjustment option. So if you want to essentially increase the opacity of that layer we were just seeing a moment ago, then you would crank this value up. So if you set the lighting adjustment to 100, then you're going to set the opacity value of that foreground lighting layer to 100%. It is that simple. In any event, I'm going to back this guy off a little bit to 90%. Next, we have color adjustment, which affects that curves layer. That's what we were seeing a moment ago. And so if you want to increase its opacity, then you would take that up to 100%. If you want to decrease the opacity, you would reduce that value. And so just for the sake of demonstration, I'm going to set it to, let's say, 77%. And then you want to always make sure, by the way, that output 2 is set to new layers. There's no sense in setting it to duplicate layer. That'll just flatten everything on a new layer. So let's just go with new layers for the most dynamic composition, at which point I'll click OK. And now I want you to see, I'll go ahead and make this guy wider again. We've got this foreground lighting layer that's set to multiply and an opacity value of 90%. That's all there is to it. And then if I click on this foreground color item, notice that its opacity value is set to 77%. And then if for some reason you wanted to modify that adjustment layer, you would double click on its thumbnail, at which point you will see that we have a curves adjustment, which varies from one channel to the next. In any case, I'm going to put that away and reduce the width of my layers value so that we can take a look at the final effect, thanks to our limited ability to adjust how Photoshop integrates the foreground image into its new background using the sky replacement command. All right, now I'll show you my favorite thing about the sky replacement command, which is that you can load your own custom skies. And so I'm going to start off with this flat image file, at which point I'll go to the edit menu and once again choose sky replacement. And I'll click on this sky thumbnail right here in order to load up those various folders of skies. And I'm going to go ahead and twirl them closed as well. And I'm going to create a new group by clicking on this little folder icon right there. And I'll call this one Dreamtime Skies, let's say, because they all come to us from the Dreamtime image library. And then I'll click on this little plus icon in order to load a new sky. And notice I have this subfolder all ready to go right here. I'll go ahead and open it up. And I'll load Sky 1, which includes its image ID from, once again, the Dreamtime library. Go ahead and click Open, at which point I'm allowed to rename the sky if I want to. I'm just going to click OK. We have these big clouds here in the background. I'm just going to scoot this dialog box over so we can see the clouds a little better. And then I'll click on that sky once again. Click on the plus sign and then load up the next one and go ahead and press the Enter key or the Return key on the Mac to automatically name that sky. And notice this time around, we have this sunset effect. Now, given the fact that we can create our own skies, they can be anything we want. They don't have to be skies at all. And so I'll go ahead and click on the plus sign once again and load this guy. Then go ahead and click the OK button. And notice this time around, we've got this nebula background, which, of course, you can move around if you like. Again, though, if you're going to move it around, then you want to go ahead and twirl open sky adjustments and increase the scale a little bit so that you don't end up with any bad edges. And then finally, I'll click on this guy once again, click on the plus sign down here at the bottom, and load this watercolor effect. click open, click OK, and we end up with this watercolor background instead. And that's how you load your own custom skies, which don't even have to be skies at all, when working with the new sky replacement command here inside Photoshop 2021. The sky replacement command can be useful with blue screen images as well. The trick is that the command is not really designed for hair, and we'll see ways of dealing with hair in the next chapter. But for now, we have this photo from the Dreamtime image library. This guy's just set against blue drywall, so far as I can tell, and he's wearing a blue shirt and a blue tie. His suit is bluish too. He's got blue reflections in his glasses, and yet the command's going to work nicely. And so you just want to make sure that an image layer is active, at which point, once again, go up to the Edit menu and then choose Sky Replacement. And a moment later, Photoshop will go ahead and replace that background with the selected sky. And notice that it's not leaking into a suit or shirt or tie or even these reflections. It's just sticking to that background. Part of the reason it's working so well is that this guy has very carefully managed hair. If we had hair all over the place, it'd be a different story. All right, I'm going to go ahead and change the sky to this third blue sky right here, which doesn't really make it look like he's outdoors. It makes him look like he's in a children's room, but still we've managed to replace that blue background with a different photographic image, at which point I'll click OK. So I'm not saying this command is always going to work with blue screen images, but as long as you're dealing with the subject with carefully managed hair, you might as well give it a try. In this chapter, I'll show you a few advancements to the Select and Mask workspace. And along the way, we're going to take this guy, once again from the Dreamtime image library, and mask him against this background in order to create this final effect. Now, you might look at this image and say, wait a sec, we have yet another model set against a bluish background. So why not go to the Edit menu and choose Sky Replacement? And that does work to an extent, as I'm about to show you, but it doesn't work as well as Select and Mask. And so just for the sake of demonstration, I'll choose the Sky Replacement command, and then I'll click on this sky thumbnail right here. I'll go ahead and scroll all the way down to my Dreamtime skies, and I'll add one more by clicking on a little plus icon, and I'll load this guy, Sky 5, and I'll click on the Open button. At which point Photoshop will ask me to name this guy. It's fine as is, so I'll just go ahead and load it up. And notice that things look pretty darn good, especially given that I put so little time into this process. But we do have an awful lot of haloing around the hair, especially inside the guy's beard and around his neck. At which point, I'll go ahead and accept what I'm seeing by clicking OK. Now you might figure now you could go ahead and click on the layer mask thumbnail for this sky layer right here, and then go up to the Select menu and choose Select and Mask in order to bring up the Select and Mask workspace, which is the subject of this chapter. But notice, if I switch to On Layers, let's say, and then I brush around this guy's hair in order to refine it, that nothing changes. And that's because I'm working on the mask for the sky layer. That means that the Select and Mask workspace cannot see this guy's hair. And so what we need to do is cancel out and take a brand new approach, as I'll demonstrate starting in the next movie. If you watched the previous movie, you know our ultimate goal is to composite this guy against these purple clouds. And if nothing else, this demonstrates the meticulous degree of detail that we can achieve in this guy's hair and along the edges of his beard. Which brings us to the topic of this movie, the refine hair function. I'll go ahead and escape out of the full screen mode. And now I want to take this guy, which it must be said comes to us from the Dreamtime image library, and composite him against this background. So I'll start things off by selecting the rectangular marquee tool, which you can get by pressing the M key. And then I'll right-click anywhere inside the image window and choose Duplicate Layer. I'll go ahead and call this guy Dude, because that's his name, and I'll change the document to Purple Clouds. And then I'll click OK. And now if I switch to that document, you can see that I've created this new Dude layer here inside the Layers panel, which is set against those purple clouds. All right, now I'll select the Dreamstime layer and press the backspace key or the delete key on the Mac to get rid of it. And next I want to select this guy by going up to the select menu and choosing the subject command, which tells Photoshop to automatically select the subject of the photograph, which is an amazing feature that has just gotten better and better over the last couple of years. Now I want to refine this selection and convert it to a layer mask, which I can do by clicking on the Select and Mask button up here in the options bar. If you don't see it, then go to the Select menu and choose Select and Mask. And that's going to switch us automatically to the Select and Mask workspace. Now I want to see this guy against this new background, and so I'll click on the View thumbnail and choose On Layers like so. And now notice if I zoom in on the image, you can see that he's got some blue halos left over from his original background up here in his hair. Now, just for the sake of reference, I'm going to turn on the Show Edge checkbox, and that for the present is going to show you nothing. And that's going to turn out to be different in just a moment. So I'm going to turn that checkbox back off. Just remember what that looked like. Make sure Refine Mode, this is a new option by the way, is set to Basic. In your version of the software, this option may read Color Aware, works the same. And then you want to go up to the options bar and click on this new button, Refine Hair, which is going to do exactly what it says. And so I'm going to zoom in just a little more so we can see the difference here. So I'll press Control-Z or Command-Z on the Mac to undo that change. Notice that we have a bunch of blue haloing inside the hair. And if I now press Control-Shift-Z or Command-Shift-Z on the Mac to redo that change, then you can see that an awful lot of that blue haloing disappears. How is that occurring, you might wonder? Well, I'll go ahead and zoom back out. Keep your eye on the top of the hair, at which point I'm going to turn on the Show Edge checkbox once again. And notice that Photoshop has automatically painted in this region along the top of the hair. And it's just as if you had grabbed the Refine Edge brush and painted this region manually. So the Refine Hair command just does that automatically. However, you will notice if I turn that checkbox off that it doesn't do such a great job on the beard. And we'll be taking care of that in a later movie. All right, I'm going to twirl close a few of these items here, edge detection and global refinements, so that I can scroll down to output settings. For some reason, for me, output 2 is set to selection. You want to set it to layer mask, at which point go ahead and click OK in order to convert that selection to a layer mask, as we're seeing here inside the Layers panel. All right, but as I say, while that works great for the hair on the top of the guy's head, it does not work for his beard. Surely we can do better, and I'll show you exactly how we can in the very next movie.